Iran, from ancient empire to Islamic republic, in the heart of the Middle East, lies a country that has witnessed more than 2,5 years of imperial rise and fall, religious transformation, foreign intervention, cultural brilliance, and political revolution. Iran, known in antiquity as Persia, is one of the most fascinating and frequently misunderstood civilizations in history. From an ancient Persian empire that once stretched from India to Greece, to a modern Islamic republic that dominates global headlines, Iran's story is one of profound transformation, cultural wealth, and deep internal conflict. But a question lingers. How did a society that once symbolized tolerance, intellectual freedom, and cultural diversity become a theocratic state, where religious law governs daily life and moral police patrol the streets? How did the land of Cyrus the Great, often credited with issuing one of the first declarations of human rights, transform into a system where clerical authority dominates politics, law, and society? To answer this, we must travel across centuries of conquest, religion, ideology, revolution, and foreign meddling. The Persian Empire and Zoroastrian legacy. The story begins in 550 BCE, when Cyrus the Great founded the Achaemenid Empire. Unlike many ancient empires that imposed their language and religion, the Persians practiced remarkable religious tolerance, permitting conquered peoples to retain their customs, laws, and faiths. The Persians followed Zoroastrianism, founded by the prophet Zarathustra, whose ideas were radically ahead of their time. The struggle between good and evil, free will, divine justice, heaven and hell, and a single wise God. These concepts later influenced the Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, making Zoroastrianism one of history's most influential, yet least populated religions. For over a millennium, successive Persian dynasties ruled vast territories and cultivated an extraordinary culture of poetry, art, science, and philosophy. After the Islamic conquests, Persian language and literature continued to flourish. Poets like Rumi, Hafez, Ferdowsi, and Sadi became global literary icons, and Persian became a scholarly lingua franca of the Islamic world. The Arab conquests and Islamization. Everything changed in the 7th century, when Arab armies carried the message of Islam beyond the Arabian Peninsula. The Sasanian Empire collapsed, and Islam became the dominant religion of Iran. Yet the Islamization of Persia was not simply a military takeover, it was a cultural fusion. Islam, unlike Christianity, which developed alongside Roman law, was from the beginning both a religion and a legal system. The Quran and Sharia regulated everything from ritual worship to trade, inheritance, and criminal law. A Quranic principle commanding right and forbidding wrong evolved into a core societal duty and would centuries later form the ideological basis for Iran's modern morality enforcement. The Safavids and the rise of Shia Iran. Islam unified Iran religiously, but the most transformative moment came in 1501, when the Safavid dynasty made Twelver Shiism the official state religion. At that time, Shia Muslims were a minority in the broader Islamic world. The Safavids not only adopted Shiism but enforced it aggressively. Scholars were imported, Sunni practices were suppressed, and public rituals of Shia identity were mandated. A powerful alliance formed between the clergy, ulama, and the monarchy. Clerics provided religious legitimacy, while the state granted them extraordinary authority over education, law, and morality. Concepts like taqlid, clerical authority in guiding the lay public, became embedded in society, and religious rulings governed daily life from clothing and social norms to commerce and personal ethics. This model, a state legitimized by religion and religion empowered by the state, became the ideological ancestor of today's Islamic Republic. From decline to foreign domination. By the 18th and 19th centuries, as Europe industrialized and expanded, Iran fell behind militarily and economically. Under the Qajar dynasty, 1785 to 1925, Iran became sandwiched between Imperial Russia in the north and Britain in the south. Oil discovered in Iran became dominated by British interests, and profits flowed outward rather than benefiting ordinary Iranians. Foreign exploitation left a deep psychological scar, fueling a nationalism that still shapes Iranian politics. The 1906 Constitutional Revolution. Iran attempted a peaceful modernization through the constitutional revolution of 1906, which created Iran's first constitution, limited royal power, established a parliament, introduced civil rights concepts. But foreign powers sabotaged the experiment, especially after oil became strategically valuable. The failure of constitutionalism opened the door to authoritarian modernization, the Pahlavi era and modernization. In 1925, Reza Shah Pahlavi seized power and launched a secular nationalist modernization program. He and later his son Mohammad Reza Shah pursued Western-style education, expansion of women's rights, secular law, ban on veiling, restrictions on clerical power. Iran looked increasingly Western, but modernization came through authoritarian rule, enforced by the secret police. Oil wealth benefited elites, while socio-economic inequality deepened. The 1953 coup and American influence. In 1953, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh nationalized Iran's oil to end foreign control. In response, the US and Britain orchestrated Operation Ajax, removing Mossadegh and reinstating the Shah as an absolute monarch. The coup expanded US influence over Iran, destroyed democratic aspirations, amplified anti-American sentiment. By the 1970s, repression, inequality, corruption, and Western cultural influence generated intense backlash. Intellectuals denounced Westoxification, claiming Iran was losing its identity. The 1979 Islamic Revolution. Amid this turmoil, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini proposed a radical idea. Society should be governed directly by Islamic law, under clerical authority. This contradicted traditional Shia doctrine, which traditionally avoided governance until the return of the Mahdi. Yet, Khomeini united students, merchants, leftists, and clerics against the Shah. In 1979, the monarchy collapsed, Khomeini returned from exile, and the revolution succeeded. But Iran's post-revolution identity was undecided. It could have become democratic, Islamic, or socialist. The turning point came when students seized the US embassy, taking diplomats hostage. Khomeini endorsed the action, strengthening the revolutionary right. Moderates were purged, and Iran became isolated internationally. The Islamic Republic. Hybrid theocracy. In late 1979, a new constitution created an unprecedented structure. Elected institutions, president, parliament, elections, unelected religious authorities, supreme leader, ultimate power, guardian council vetoes laws and candidates, assembly of experts. The principle of commanding right and forbidding wrong became constitutional, legitimizing morality policing. Religious law regulated dress, media, and public behavior. Opposition was crushed, mandatory hijab was imposed, and widespread exile created a massive brain drain. The Iran-Iraq War 1980–1988 united the country but further empowered the military and clerics. After the war, reformists periodically attempted change, but unelected institutions blocked major liberalization. Crisis of the 21st century. Identity and authority. By the 2000s and 2010s, a generational divide emerged. A young, educated population questioned clerical authority, social restrictions, and Iran's international isolation. Periodic protests erupted in 2009, 2019, and most dramatically in 2022. The Mahsa Amini protests, 2022–2023. In September 2022, Mahsa Amini, a young Kurdish Iranian woman, died in custody after being detained for improper hijab. Her death ignited massive nationwide protests under the slogan, "Woman, Life, Freedom." For many Iranians, the protests were not only about dress codes, but about dignity, rights, and control of everyday life. The crackdown was severe, with thousands arrested and hundreds killed. Economic collapse and widespread unrest 2025–2026. By late 2025, Iran entered a deep economic crisis marked by soaring inflation, food and medicine shortages, severe currency devaluation, widespread business closures. Major demonstrations erupted across markets and cities, uniting merchants, workers, and students. In 2026, protests expanded nationwide. The state responded with internet blackouts and heavy force, marking the largest unrest since 1979. Conclusion: faith, power and identity. Iran's journey from Cyrus's pluralistic empire to the modern Islamic Republic is ultimately a story about identity, legitimacy, and the struggle between religious authority and individual freedom. It raises enduring questions. Can a society be both religious and free? Can tradition coexist with modernity? Can a revolution built on idealism avoid becoming authoritarian? Today, Iran stands at a crossroads. Its youth are globally connected, culturally proud, and politically frustrated. Whether Iran reforms from within or undergoes another transformation, its history shows that the Iranian people have repeatedly reshaped their state and may do so again.